Okay, so quick video on equipoise, also known as Boldenone, right? So I've covered that in the past, but as I said in the past, this video has been deleted. So therefore, I'm gonna make a very similar style video. Obviously, some of my stands on it might have been updated since, I've made that quite in the past, last year. So obviously my stands may have changed a little bit, but for the most part, everything that you want to know about EQ, also known as equipoise or Boldenone. So first, what you want to know about EQ? Well, EQ is a drug that's used for horses. So it's a veterinary drug, meaning that it's used for race courses. Basically, it's gonna increase your stamina by a lot. So endurance stamina improves by a lot, so cardiovascular ability. So it's very, very good for endurance athletes, crossfitters and stuff like that. It will increase your red blood cell count. That is probably the most prominent side effect of EQ, if any, because EQ actually carries very little side effects. And that would be basically one. It will raise your red blood cell count, which basically means that if it raises it too high, your blood basically turns very thick, which what it means is that it's gonna increase your chances of blockages and potentially a stroke. That said though, gains wise, EQ is not one of those drugs that comes with a huge amount of side effects. As a result, the gains or the effects are not going to be that big. Like, you're not going to get like a 20-pound gain like you would of something like Debo or Anadrol, purely for that reason. In fact, EQ is actually a derivative of testosterone, just like Debo. It's derived from testosterone. It's actually a reduced testosterone. So essentially, it's like a low side effect testosterone.
4, 5.
EQ can be run at quite high doses.
7.
So I would say anything under 500 is pretty ineffective. So to get anything out of it, you want to go at least 500. People going as far as a gram, even 1.2 to 1.5 grams is not uncommon. And EQ is usually produced at 250 to about 300 milligrams per milliliter. So, like I said, dosage-wise, you'd have to run it quite high to see some sort of effects from it. Like I said, if you're gonna run it at like 200, 300, you're not gonna really see much out of it. Also needs to be run for a very long time. So, because it has the undecylonate ester, the undecylonate ester is a very, very long, is essentially the longest ester possible. That means that EQ is going to be in your system for a very long time after you come off. So I would say a good idea with EQ would be to front load it. If you haven't seen my video on front loading, go watch that. Explains it all and why you want to front load it and who should do it or who should. So that said, EQ is very, very long lasting ester, has a very long lasting ester. You can also get Boldenone cypionate, which is basically a shorter acting ester, but it's quite harder to find. I actually have a friend, well, my dad has a friend who basically owns a horse, like breeder or whatever, in Bulgaria, and they use it. And so actually I got my hands on some of that EQ, and I gotta tell you, it's nothing like the EQ that you would get from a UGL lab. It also used to come in 50 mg per milliliter, so it used to come in these huge 100cc bottles. And I tell you, like, you would take 500 of that, it's equal to like 1500. Like, your vascularity improves hugely, even after like a couple weeks, and you see huge jumps in in stamina improvement. Like, you feel like you're doing cardio for like 10 minutes and it feels like you've been doing cardio for like a minute, you know what I mean? So like you could easily knock out an hour of cardio and you only feel like you've been on there for like 5 minutes. So that's a huge thing for EQ. I don't think that EQ is very often faked because there's no reason to do that really. And as I said, the thing is, there's a huge misconception with the fact that people are always like, oh, I'm not feeling the EQ. Now, EQ is not something you're going to feel per se. Like, it's not something that you necessarily feel, because it's one of those things that, you know, it's not very androgenic, which means unlike things like trend, for example, that you feel automatically because you're feeling the mental side effect and you're feeling the fact that it's very, very androgenic. So, you know, that is going to have a huge impact on your brain. Whereas EQ is more anabolic, which means you're not really going to feel the effects, if you will. One effect that will kind of tell you that EQ, that you're taking EQ, is hunger. EQ increases your hunger by a huge amount, which is why I'm not really a fan of it for karting, because it makes me really, really hungry. Now, not everybody gets that effect though, so you need to bear that in mind, that while it is a side effect, some people just don't get it. You know, some people can run like a gram of EQ and never even feel, you know, never even get that side effect. So you kind of have to maybe, you know, judge it for yourself. But like I said, EQ is not something that you're going to feel hugely. You know, if your cardio is improving, if you're getting hungrier, you know, that are effects that, you know, you might be a factor that you're running EQ. But other than that, you know, gains wise, like I said, my overall stance on EQ is it's okay. You know, it's nothing crazy, far from my favorite, but it's okay. So what I say is, like, let's say you've run a, you know, quite a toxic cycle, test, trend, and let's say debo, right? It's a very toxic cycle, and now you're going to come down to a cruise or come off, whatever you choose to do, right? At that point, you may want to do a less toxic cycle. Let's say something like, you know, testing EQ. So you take, let's say, 500 test, you take 500 EQ. It's a nice mild cycle. Now you're not going to experience the effects that you get off of debol, trend, and test, but you will still get good amount, you know, good effects. So bear that in mind. Like I said, it's not something that if you're one of those people, you know, if you're one of those people that are patient with it, be patient with it, because otherwise you're not gonna like it. You know, you want to be patient with it. That said, I think that pretty much covers it all. I don't think I've missed anything. So, you know, like I said, as far as side effects, it would be, you know, increased red blood cell count. Oh, okay. To mitigate that side effect, you just donate blood. Simple as. What else you can do? You can, not much else you can do. Like I said, hunger, that's about it. So very low side effects, but the effects are not going to be all that prominent. That said, I think that pretty much covers it all. Hope you've kind of learned a thing or two about EQ, something that you didn't know, or if you're, you know, borderline trying to decide whether you want to run it or not.